welcome to the Marina Skua Podcast. My name's Marina. I'm a knitwear designer and dyer of yarn and fibre. This podcast is about my work and my crafty projects. And so I'm going to start off talking about what I'm wearing, and then we'll get on to other stuff I've been working on and things I've got coming up in the shop. So first up, I'm wearing my Amber Apple cardigan, and I've had some questions about it because it was on the mannequin back there. And this is one that was originally published in a magazine, and the rights came back to me earlier this year, and so it's got some drama going on, so I will show you that. So we've got a nice deep V-neck. We've got these massive sleeves. They are just enormous. So we've got a really deep armhole, and then they come to a big old puffy balloon situation at the cuff. So it's a saddle shoulder design. So the shoulder has a herringbone stitch section, which is a really nice sort of dense stitch, which gives a bit of structure to that part of the design that's carrying a load of weight. And then that herringbone is repeated on the cuffs, which I think has worked out so nicely. I just love that little detail. And so this is worked from top down, kind of similarly in construction to another cardigan I'm going to show you shortly. And so you work the button band simultaneously with the body of the cardigan, so there's no picking up of stitches for that. And it's got a load of drama. So I love this cardigan. I've been wearing it a lot. It's great for fitting other things underneath. There's a little bit of positive ease in the body, but not loads. But as I said, the armholes are quite deep. So I've got this shirt on, which you can't really see. But it's got a slightly puffy sleeve on it, and so there's plenty of space for that within these sleeves. And yes, so the yarn I've used is Rowan Pebble Island in the colour Macaroni, which is this gorgeous like pumpkin-y orange, but it's not like a really brash orange, but neither is it a proper burnt orange. It's got a lot of warmth to it, but it's not too yellowy, if that makes sense. It's just one I really like. It's a colour I really, really enjoy, and it feels quite autumnal, which we're meant to be in high summer, but it's not happening. We're in the middle of a storm, and I've just gone full autumnal hobbit core, I guess. So this pattern has been out for a little while. One thing I will say about the yarn is it does pill. Like, people who work with a lot of merino are probably used to that. It's 100% Falklands merino. It's not a fibre I particularly enjoy working with and wearing. Like, it is very nice. It's quite nice and soft. It's not superwash. This one's a non-superwash one. And it feels very nice, but it pills to all hell. So I've not de-bobbled this in the last couple of wears, so it does have a lot of bobbles on it. And I've sort of given up. It gets so bobbly, and that's just one of the disadvantages of super soft fibres. So that's one to look out for. But it is a really nice one. Theoretically, it would work very well in my Mendip DK, if that's something you were looking at. I've also thought about it might be really fun to do a marled version holding two strands of 4-ply together. I think that could be really, really nice, but I'm not allowing myself to pursue that thought too much because I have 4 billion projects queued up. So yes, so underneath that, let's take it off a second so you can see. It also means I'll be able to show you some more details. So the buttons for this one I got from the Textile Garden. They're nice sort of antique bronzy brassy ones. the cuffs are quite tight, because to get that really nice puff and also to get the herringbone to sit flat, you can see there that the herringbone a tiny bit wants to roll, and so the cuff, it's comfortable once it's on, but you sort of have to compress your hand to get in there, and then it sits really, really nicely once it's on. So we've got that one, shoulder here, and where you pick up stitches from the herringbone section for the shoulder, it's got some applied chain stitch either side, which you do at the end just to give even more strength to that shoulder, and also to just neaten up the transition between the two stitch patterns, because a lot of times when you pick up stitches for something like that where you're going to be working in the opposite direction, I find it often looks really lovely if it's managed well, but with the herringbone stitch, because of the way you have to do the edges, because it's a weird old stitch, it ended up not being as neat as I would have liked, so it's got some chain stitch over the top to make it nice and pretty. And then you've got a little bit of puffiness on top of the sleeve, but then the sleeves are really heavy, so that kind of pulls it down, and then that extra fullness just kind of drapes into the sleeve. And there are some little tapery decreases along the length of the sleeve, but they're very infrequent, and most of the decreasing happens in this ridiculous cuff situation, which I love. And it is actually warming up a bit, so I might leave that off for now, especially while I show you my waistcoat. So you can see my little puffy sleeves here. They're way too short on me. I don't think this shirt was designed for a person of my height. This waistcoat, quickly stand up. This is a cropped version of my Scrumper Waistcoat, which I have the original on the mannequin over there. This is a design that came out a while ago, like a year ago, I think so. I don't even remember. No, we're getting on for like 2 years. My brain. Time doesn't exist. This is worked bottom up, and it's really easy to modify the length because you just, again, the button band is worked at the same time, and so you can just choose to do more or less repeats of the buttonhole section. So you start with a little moss stitch hem, and you can just add more or fewer buttonholes. And so here I've gone for 4. The original pattern has 6. You could also theoretically just change the spacing of the buttonholes for smaller incremental changes. And I wear this one a lot. It's great for layering. The yarn is one that my friend Kat gave to me. It's some local yarn that she had spun up from I think 1 local flock or 2 local flocks. So it's Jacob and Valet Blacknose. As such, it's not a soft yarn, but there's something lovely about it. It's really durable. It's shown like 0 signs of wear. And I dyed this with woad seeds a few years ago from my old garden. So yeah. And then the buttons. I'm going to talk about the buttons because that leads on to something super fun. So these buttons are by a woodworker called Tom Dyson. He's down in Southampton, which is probably an hour and a half from me. So really not that far away. And he has a variety of buttons in a few different woods, like different types of wood. And so these ones are yew. They're a nice, light, very warm colour, sort of verging on kind of yellowy orangey. And then these ones, this is the cardigan version of this pattern. So we've got sleeves there. We've got the Nice cable section that goes under the sleeves with a little bit of moss stitch there. And on this one I've gone for a much darker button, which is the laburnum, which is a really beautiful wood. And I was having a chat with Tom. He was telling me that traditionally it was actually grown for its wood, which I hadn't really heard of. It's a native tree in the UK. And it's just a beautiful wood. It's quite hard. So these, they're going to be really durable. They're like finished really, really nicely. I was looking for somewhat locally made buttons made of local materials that are also not super rustic, because there are lots of beautiful, very rustic looking buttons out there, or ones that are a bit quirky, which are lovely, but not what I want in my everyday knits. And so I have used Tom's buttons on quite a few projects of my own. And I thought, given that I'm doing more kits on my website now with patterns of things I've designed along with my hand-dyed yarn, I thought it would be really nice to have the option to add some buttons on if you wanted to do that, because then you've got sort of all the things you need to make the thing, except the needles. And so I've got a little box here. It's nice having a delivery of things to go in the shop that is this big. Fluff is not small. Like when I have yarn deliveries or fibre deliveries, they're usually numerous kilos and they're much bigger than I am in massive sacks. And so having a tiny little box of beautiful buttons show up is just delightful. So we've got the U buttons, which are just here. These are the ones that I've got on here, and they're matched so that each set of buttons is from the same piece of wood. So you'll get buttons that work really nicely together, because obviously it's a natural product. You have different grain patterns in different parts of the tree. And so they are matched up so that you have similar grain patterns in all of them. And I think that's just a lovely detail. Like they're sewn on these beautiful little cards, which I think Tom and his mum put together, which is just delightful. So yes, these are, if they're not in the shop now, they're going to be in there very, very soon. And they are beautiful, beautiful buttons. Yes, I've raved about Tom's buttons since I discovered them. And so I'm really pleased to be stocking them. And at the moment I've just got the 15mm buttons, because those are the ones I've been using. If it turns out that people are really keen on the buttons, I might start stocking a few more sizes and maybe a couple more woods. But at the moment I've just gone for the ones that I have tried myself. So next up, we've got my headband. I did talk about this one in the last video because I had just finished it, but now the pattern is released. It's called the Bournlet headband. A bourne is a little stream, usually on chalky land, which I only realised when I was looking up the word, because I like to check etymology on stuff because I find that really interesting. And the bourne that I know the best is the one at the end of my cousin's road, which occasionally floods quite dramatically, and apparently bournes usually are seasonal, so little facts. And so it's called Bournlet because I had to make it a tiny bit twee. It's just some very simple cables, and I'll show you on this other sample I've made, which I don't have on now because it doesn't show up quite as well on my hair, because my hair is quite dark and this is quite dark. This is the third project that this yarn has become. So originally this is hand spun yarn. It's Cheviot. I definitely usually say Cheviot, and I have a feeling that's wrong, even though that feels more correct to me. Apologies for anyone who knows better and has been offended at my horrible pronunciation. It's a really nice springy wool, and so it's good for this kind of thing. It's nice to have a lot of bounce in it, because if it's something that's fairly sleek and lustrous, it can be a bit floppy and doesn't stay in place as well. So both of these are sort of worsted Aran weight, but the pattern is designed so that you can use literally any yarn weight you want to, and you can use up tiny leftovers from other projects. So both of these weigh approximately 12 grams. In the pattern, I specify a bit more than that. I say like 15 to 20 grams because I wouldn't want you to run out of yarn. Such is life. But it's just really nice for using up. I'm sure like everyone who knits a lot probably has a box or bag or stash somewhere of leftover little bits from the ends of projects that they don't want to get rid of, but also don't know what to do with. So these are lovely for that. You can have it to match like a jumper or something that you've made with the yarn previously, if you're into the matchy-matchy. And yeah, it's a fun little pattern. So it starts with a provisional cast on and a little bit of ribbing. I like the ribbing to sit at the bottom under my hair because it just compresses a bit better and takes up less space, so it doesn't do such weird things to the back of your hair. And then you just do a really simple little cable pattern. And so this cable, like, it reminded me of the ripples in shallow streams, which is where the name comes from. And you just keep going until it is the length you want it to be. I've suggested a length in the pattern which should work for like a very average female head, but you can just, as you're making it, you just hold it around your head and can see if it's at the length you want it to be yet. And then you can finish it off once you've got to that point. Or if you run out of yarn and you just finish it and give it to someone with a smaller head, like a child or something. It's super flexible. You can use any yarn, it'll work for any human head. And it's just a lovely little pattern. So that one's out now. Then, in terms of things I am currently making, yeah, this one. Now, I showed you this one last time. It has progressed somewhat. It's the only knitting project I've been working on other than headbands. And I would like to make quite a few more headbands because it's addictive and there are so many little bits of yarn that I could use for them. And when I did my last headband pattern, the Ramosa, which has lace, I think the majority of people who made one didn't just make one. They're super fun. It's like less than an evening's work. And just a very satisfying little project. This is the other one that I have been working on, which is not small or satisfying. Saying it's not satisfying is unfair, but it doesn't have that instant gratification thing. So this is a cardigan in progress. Got it on my needles. We have joined the fronts and backs. We've got the shoulders where they're going to be. And let's see if I can try it on for you. Whoop. Got stitches on hold and things for the shoulders, and so it's not the most manoeuvrable. Now this one, there we go. We've got saddle shoulders, so this is similar in construction but not the same to the amber apple cardigan, the orange one I was wearing earlier. I'm not going to be able to get it fully round because I'm on my needles and they're not long enough. But again, nice deep V-neck. This will have a shawl collar, so it'll have more going on here, so it will have a bit more chest coverage than this. And quite deep armholes, again, not as deep as on the other cardigan because the sleeves aren't going to be that dramatic. But the idea with this is that it will be good for layering with lots of things if you're spending a lot of time outside. And so, yeah, not loads. Oh, I like how the cable looks there. Not loads to update you on there, but I did have to redo a little section because of foolishness and knitting too late at night and making rash decisions about spreadsheets. So I had calculated out my armhole depth to allow for a decent amount of room in the sleeves, and then did a measurement and thought that's nowhere near the amount of armhole that there should be there. That measurement is incorrect. Went back, redid a load of stuff, frogged a bit, re-knitted a load, knitted loads of extra length, and then realised that I originally had accounted for the extra depth of the saddle shoulder. Decided in my tired state that that was incorrect, because I thought, what is that extra 5.5 centimetres? What purpose would that be serving? Deleted it out, re-knitted, realised what I'd done, had to go back, rip back, recalculate, continue with the thing I had originally done. I don't tend to have to do loads of ripping back as a designer, but when I do, it's usually because I'm tired and did something stupid, rather than, oh, I was trying that out and it didn't really work out. This is why I shouldn't knit really late at night when I should already be in bed, but this is what happens. A lot of my work gets crammed into the evenings, especially the things that are more enjoyable. So this one, I mentioned the yarn last time. This is yarn from Gullet Barton. It's a lovely undyed Shetland Romney blend, and I'm really liking how it's working up now that I've got a larger area of it. It's definitely a bit rustic. It's got some inconsistencies in thickness, but I love that because this collection is definitely going to feel quite outdoorsy and grounded, and that's what I'm excited about. And I love yarns with character. So the collection is going to be called From This Land, a West Country collection, and I am going on farm visits for it, then taking inspiration from the farms that I'm visiting and using that to inform the designs with the yarn that I'm making from that farm. And it's a really, really fun process. I've really been enjoying it. It's been partially funded by South West England Fibre Shed, which is an organisation I'm part of. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Fibre Shed movement, but it's the idea that you should be able to create a regional textile system within a specific geographic area and create textiles, whether it's garments or homewares or useful things. You should be able to create those end to end within a specific geographic area in a way that is beneficial to people and planet, and is kind of the antithesis to wasteful, polluting, fast fashion stuff, which I haven't ranted about enough recently, but we'll probably get there. So this week, earlier in the week, I went to visit lovely Beck at the Woven Briar. She is the other side of Somerset to me. I'm not in Somerset, but very close to it. And yeah, she's at the bit where, from my point of view, Somerset starts to get hilly again. And I had a lovely afternoon with her. And I've brought back some of her yarn, which I'm going to try out. I'm not going to use all of this yarn because I am likely going to be designing an accessory with her yarn, but focusing on the cardigan at the moment, so I'm going to be doing some swatching with this to see what it becomes. So this is Portland from Beck's own flock, the Honeywoods flock. The Portlands are fun. It's a rare breed, and they seem to be not skittish, not like easily scared, but just not very interested in being where the people are, which I can understand that. And then this is Jacob. I think this is all the colours of Jacob, because Jacob have multicoloured fleeces, so they have white, brown and often some grey and black all in the same fleece, so they've got beautiful spotty patterns and gigantic horns in varying quantities. They're just excellent sheep, and so I think these are just all of the colours of Jacob from that particular clip all blended up into one, which gives this lovely warm dark grey. And this is not from Beck's flock, it's from a neighbouring flock. But they're both spun to the same spec, and we will see what they become. Beck also has some Shetlands and some Icelandic sheep. We just had the loveliest time sitting in the field with the sheep all coming to say hello. Honestly, it is the first... I've visited quite a few sheep farms that breed sheep for wool and other things. But all of them, I tend to work with farms that really look after their animals and care for them and have very high welfare standards. And that usually means that the farmers have a good relationship with the sheep, and often they tend to be smaller flocks. But Beck's is the first time that we walked into the field and all the sheep ran over to say hello without a food bucket being shaken at them. And it was just so lovely. They all just wanted to come and see us and nuzzle at us. And we just sat in the fields chatting with the sheep and watching the swallows overhead, which it was lovely. We've not had much good weather, so having a little window where we could spend some time out on the hillside was just glorious. So the next thing I have to show you is a super exciting one. Slightly bittersweet, and I'll get into that. So this is Making Stories magazine. I have a design featured in it. I've mentioned it previously because I've worked with Making Stories a lot, and I had a design in the last issue. But this issue is so pretty. So the theme is Art Nouveau. Have we got it on there? No. Oh yeah, it's down there, it's tiny. It's inspired by Art Nouveau, so sort of turn of the 19th, 20th centuries. And I suggested the theme, which I'm very excited about. I've been wanting to do it for ages, and it's really nice to see a whole collection of beautiful knitting patterns inspired by that theme. Look at those ruffles. I think this one is designed by Eula. Yeah, Eula Cableman. That one's so pretty. Not really my style because I tend to not be a super ruffly person despite having ruffles on my sleeves at the moment. Got some pretty socks with twisty bits called cyclamen. This is an article that I really, really want to read because it's about women's work and May Morris and the arts and crafts movement, which are all subjects that I'm completely fascinated by. And this one is incredible. This is the cover pattern. In fact, that's the same photo. And it's just got these beautiful cables at the top of the body in the sort of yoke area, but it's not like a circular yoke one. It's just a lovely, lovely design. I don't know if peplums are back. I've been hearing that peplums are back. I'm excited. I like a peplum. Peplums are great. This one is beautiful. What's this design called? Wisteria. And just on the raglan lines, it's got lovely little designs, which I assume are meant to evoke wisteria flowers. The articles in this one, this only arrived a couple of days ago, and so I haven't had a chance to read through yet. But the articles look incredible and I'm really excited. This is my design, tiny little picture of it. It's called Headband. It's inspired by Art Nouveau book covers and the sort of symmetrical designs you get in those, especially ones designed by Margaret Armstrong. If you look her up, she has a very distinctive visual style, often with gold embossing, which I couldn't really do in the design, although that would be super cool if you've got like some goldy yarn. Could be mega fun. I will put up some pictures of this one. And it's all over colour work. It's got just a super massive panel on the front of it, which I really, really like. This design is Rogue. It's like a tam, but it's got colour work and it's so, so sweet. And I'm never usually tempted by a tam or beret, but it's really, really pretty. Just to show you the charts for my pattern. They had to split it up because it was really, really big, because it's the whole front of the jumper. And so it was, I think that's the longest I've spent on, there's no I think about it, that is the longest I've spent on a chart ever. It took me a long time to decide the exact style of the flowers and the leaves, and I made lots of different motifs that I kind of took out and spliced in and replaced and redesigned, and I've never had to have such a complicated setup for how I design my charts, because usually I focus on small elements, or like an overall section of a yoke chart that is quite a small section itself. But that one, it was just a whole panel that had different stuff happening all over it, and it was I created a bit of a challenge for myself, but absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to see my sample again, because it's still in Germany at the moment, and it was a lot of fun to knit. So it's knitted bottom up, it's steeked, because all over colour work, and that's how it's going. It's got a drop shoulder, and just like a fairly classic drop shoulder silhouette, and then a double folded neckline to enclose the steek stitches around the neck. And yeah, so I have the magazine in the shop at the moment. Currently they're on pre-order because my order from Making Stories is going to be arriving very soon, and once those arrive I will ship out the pre-orders, and from that point any more that sell will just go straight out. Yeah, so it's really, really nice to have the magazine, and I am sad that I have only really started stocking it now that it is unlikely to continue, which I think was only decided recently. I definitely only found out recently, and it's just tragic. Every issue is completely beautiful, produced wonderfully. I've mentioned I've worked extensively with the Making Stories team over the years. I tech edited the first 7 issues, maybe 6, somewhere around there. I tech edited those issues, and I've contributed designs, yarn, illustrations, writing over the years, and Hannelisa, it looks like, has finally taken the decision that she's not going to be carrying on the magazine, and that seems to be the way that indie knitting publishing is going. Like, there are so few indie-owned magazines left, and it's really sad. Pom Pom went, and I think they're continuing in some capacity, but not as a magazine. Liner is no longer independently owned, and a lot of others have gone over the years, or been bought out, or gone online only. And it's a real shame, because Making Stories has always focused on the things that I really care about, which are natural fibre, non-superwash yarns, transparency and fairness in everything they do. And they've just always been a delight to work with, and they produce such a beautiful magazine, and it's just a real shame. And so if you've ever looked at the magazine and thought it looked nice, like, let's help them go out with a bang. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just genuinely sad, because it's the loss of a good thing. For the first time ever when recording, had to take a little break. Sorry about that. Issue 12. I've got it in the shop. There are going to be 2 more issues after this one, which I will probably still stock, even though I don't have designs in them. Regretting not submitting for the one that is going to be the last issue, which will probably be autumn next year. But yes, while the magazine is still around, please support it as much as you can, because it's a thing of beauty. On to other things. got some yarn in the shop. Today is a bit of a here are things I've got in the shop, and I'm sorry about that. I hope you're interested. And I will be back with more making stuff next time. Yarn. So this is my Mend It 4-ply. I love these colours. I've recently got some new dye pans, and that means having lots of fun without specific aim, like not dyeing towards a particular collection or anything, but just getting used to them and creating things that are fun. So I made just these 2 colourways to try out a couple of different things when I'm dyeing. This one is called Chintz, and this one is called Sea Glass. So this one I wanted to create something sort of quite fresh and nautical and cool and calming. This one I was kind of going for like comfy old armchair vibes. And so it's sort of slightly faded colours. It's got this mainly sort of pinky red as the base, and then it's got some areas of like dusty blue and purple and some slightly burnished colours. Love this one. And then Sea Glass is lots of greeny blues. Some areas of darker green, and then some going into kind of sea foamy, duck eggy colours. But again, like not really crisp, bright colours, like they're just a little bit muted and faded, which is what I'm keen to explore more of in my dyeing, because it's what's fun to me. And it's the things that I like to wear, and I want to do more of that. So those ones are currently in the shop. There are super limited quantities because they were just little like trial runs, and some have gone already, but yeah. And then coming to the shop, I'll quickly show you, I've got these ones behind me. Want to check I get the right ones. Oh, it's all gone wrong. Are these the right ones? Yes, there we go. Just 3 colours of fibre on my skewer blend, which are going to be in a shop update next week. So I've got a couple of updates happening over the next couple of weeks because lots and lots of things happening. I'm really excited about everything I'm doing, and finally I have more time, and it's making such a difference, and I'm just really excited about everything I'm doing, and I hope that you are interested in following along. This one, quite moody, but very, very warm colours. So we've got some yellows and oranges and like pinky bits. I believe I called this one Primula, but now looking at it again, I think I looked at it in the wrong light because it's not giving me Primula vibes. But it does have pinky bits there. I really like this one. I think it'll spin up beautifully. And you've got some of the natural colour showing through. Parakeet. So this one, we've got a huge chunk of like mostly yellow, and then sort of a little bit of greeny blue, and then a nice little pop of red at the end. So again, I've been doing colours on my fibre recently that feel like a journey from one end of to the other. And so you can split them up into tiny little pieces and distribute the colours as you choose. You can split the braid to create like a fun sort of story gradient thing. There are loads of different ways you can work with them, and I particularly like that rather than just a more kind of uniform colour distribution. And then this one, which has my moody heart, this is Starling. So it's kind of all of those, if you look at feathers properly, they're not just meh. There are lots of different colours in there depending how the light reflects. So we've got like little bits of burgundy, dark tealy blue, and then nice deep greeny sections. So just 3 colours there. And these ones, I hope this isn't spoilers. Annalisa of Making Stories will be stocking some of those later in the year. So if you're in the EU and are annoyed that the way our country is formatted means you can't buy things from the UK, you will be able to get them from an EU source and not have to pay ridiculous duties and taxes. Yes, so as well as those ones, I've got something new, which is very exciting. So this is going to be a crinkly bag, I'm sorry. So I currently have 2 blends in the shop. There's the Skua blend, which those ones were, and the Solace blend, which is a little bit lighter. It's a light sort of grey and more watercolory and less moody in tone. And I'm going to be adding a new blend, again in the same update next week. I'm very excited about this one. It's much more lustrous, so it's kind of quite low profile, as in when you spin it up, it spins quite, I don't want to use the word flat because that's not fair, but it's much more compressed. It's much better suited to a worsted spin. The fibres in it are mostly quite lustrous. So this is the Feather blend, which is Blue-Faced Leicester, Wensleydale, Teeswater, all of which are white, and then a little bit of Morit Shetland in there. And that just gives it the most lovely oatmeal-y colour. And the colour, and actually when you spin it up before plying or anything, looks very similar to unbleached flax. It's got that kind of golden beige look to it. And so I've done a little knitted swatch, and so this is, it's kind of got a springy drape to it. It's really nice. It's got sort of a little bounce, but it's not a crimpy bounce, so it'll give very, very nice structure to things. And the natural colour is lovely. It's really nice warm base. And then I said I've been having fun doing dye experiments, so I just wanted to see how this would dye up, and it's very, very pretty. So this is 100 grams, so it comes quite it's quite a skinny preparation. It's a skinny top, which I think is really nice because the yarn the fibre blend particularly suits being spun into a fine yarn, and having a thinner preparation like this really helps to encourage that and makes that fine spinning feel like it's progressing a little bit faster, even though it sort of isn't. So yeah, I love this is just a little sample one. Eventually I will get round to spinning this up, but it won't be anytime soon because I am in the middle of my big Skua blend spin, which I talked about last time. So on the spinning fibre, I didn't mention that is blended up for me by Wing and Wool Work, who are based in Gloucestershire, and again I talk about them a lot because I like what they do, and we've got a little giveaway to give away. So last time I showed you that they were giving away a little box of fibre and a dropped spindle and a pair of hand cards, and I have had the online random YouTube comment picker thing, and the winner is Caroline Mott 702, and so congratulations, Caroline. Please do get in contact with me. I will also reply to your comment on the previous video, and yeah, get in touch and we can work out how to get your prize to you. And I really, really hope you're going to enjoy starting to spin, because it's been so delightful hearing about like why everyone wants to spin, and even though there's only one prize, therefore I can only directly enable one person. It's just so lovely to see, because it's a lovely craft. It allows you to have so much more control, both over like your creative process, but also the sourcing of your materials to create something just really lovely. Now, that was a whole lot of things I just showed you. I will reiterate, I am so excited about the work I'm doing at the moment. Just lots of local fibres and fun colours and really heartening projects that are getting me back to all the stuff I'm just so pleased to be working with. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you want to be notified when the shop update next week, for example, happens, assuming you're not watching this more than a week late, please do sign up to my newsletter. And my patrons, as ever, get early access to my shop updates, so anything that is a physical product that there are limited quantities of, my patrons get access 24 hours before everyone else. And this month's video, I was processing some nettles that I've been working with recently, and just talking about how I process nettles. So each month on there I produce a slightly more in-depth video of making, so even when the podcast doesn't have a section in which I'm actually making something, you'll always get something a bit more in-depth like that on Patreon. And I've not totted up, but there are probably hundreds of hours of video on there in the back catalogue that you can get access to if you sign up. So if you're interested in that, please do go and take a look. It's one of the things that really, really helps this channel keep going. It's what's enabled me to upgrade some of my equipment and get my new dye pans, and just things that help make everything feel a bit more stable, whilst hopefully you also get loads of nice stuff. So yes, I have loved having a chat with you. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope I will catch you next time.